A very warm welcome to another edition of IIPC Talks. Myself, Abhishek Singh, Joint Secretary at IIP Cell KGEC. And today with us, we have Utsap Chakraborty of 2008 batch EC department, who is currently analytics leader at Flipkart. So first of all, thanks a lot, Utsap for joining us, taking time out of your busy schedule. And we'll first quickly request you to walk us through your journey from KGEC to where you are currently now.
Hey, thanks Abhishek. Thanks the IIP sale in KGC. I feel honored. I think what if I just walk back and try finding out how I ended up here. Uh, it's like at the very when I was in KGC, like all of you, the only sole goal for me was how do I end up getting a job, right? And once I got a job, yeah, I mean, I did well. And then I started look around about, I had a larger aspirations, right? I mean, I wanted to really make change, influence business decisions. And what I realized that, after 3, 4 years, I actually understood it a little late, to be very honest. After 3 years experience, I started realizing that my aspirations are to really influence the business decision. But my ability to perform and do justice to that role is falling short, right? And that's when I started pursuing for my MBA in several. So I just like a lot of my batchmates, I appeared for CAT a couple of times. Scored around 95 to 97 because of my acads. I got calls from I am Bangalore, Shillong, Indore, SP Jain, all of those calls I got. But eventually, it didn't. None of the calls I could clear because it's a mix of two reasons. One, I was already late as an MBA aspirant, as a 2 year formal MBA aspirant. The second thing, obviously, was also the fact that the on I was a little bit straightforward in answering the questions. And at that level, what I realized later on as I look back, a lot of diplomatic answers, a lot of nuanced answer is required, which we will probably I'll cover as I go along. So I could not clear, and then I realized that I'm already having a 5 years of experience. Maybe 2 years MBA is not a way to go. I should go for GMAT, or I should look for a executive full time program. And I gave. I had two exams in mind, GMAT, ZAT, both of those. Fortunately, I could crack ZAT. I did very well. I think I scored 99 percentile plus in ZAT that year, and I got through XLRI. And whatever that, I was also fortunate to, get introduced to this field of analytics in XLRI itself. Right? So I realized that this is a field which is emerging. The statistics refresher and the understanding of different business cases, that the business problems that the teachers, I took electives accordingly. And by the time I was getting out of XLRI, I would say I was having the theoretical background to get in. However, I did not have so much of a sound programming background to get in. Okay. Now, once I got passed out of XLRI, I got a job in a company which gave me a full hand. I mean, I was fortunate. I was working on competitive pricing. I got into e-commerce there itself. I was working with a lot of clients on deciding the pricing strategies, what could be the product pricing. I was also developing a couple of pricing recommendations tools, etc. So it was a mix of a PM plus analytics role. And I think that 2 years is probably the seed year when I kind of got a lot of headroom. I learned a lot. There was during the 2 years when I was working in my first company after MBA, I covered the base on Python. I covered the base on all machine learning. I covered the base on what are the different business problems that the clients are trying to say, right, in e-commerce or in retail. What are the problems that they are trying to say? I did a lot of case study because in the role that I was in asked me or required me to come up with different innovative solutions. And I was, I mean, I would not say that the role I was able to see the scale there, because most of the projects there was at a POC phases, but I was able to prepare myself for a bigger role. That's how I would put. And you know, all everything, when you go backwards, you can actually connect dots. And when I now feel, I think that 2 years was very critical for me when I look back over here. And then everything happened. I started appearing for interviews, and I kept on clearing one after another interviews, and I started teaching at the same time as well. uh, the teaching, the reason I started teaching at that time in different as a freelancing option was to stay to ensure that I'm not forgetting what I'm learning, because at that stage it is very important that you keep yourself reminded of the same concepts. So I did that, and then at the same time I started appearing for interviews. And what that essentially made me is that these are the set of questions that interviewers ask, right? And it's a very cliched way, but you know, all the, if you really see the intersection, or if you really do an union of all the data science interview questions, it's a finite set
Mhm.
of questions, right? Everybody will do a simple sampling of those questions and will say. So that kind of you know, made me really understand what, how to crack the email interviews very efficiently. And then I started clearing and started looking for opportunities and ended up in Flipkart. But the reason why I just want to highlight this particular interview process that we had in Flipkart. So, in spite of knowing everything that you guys must be reading, whether it's a different ML, the complex to complex ML algorithm, or deep learning algorithms, or MLP algorithms,
Mhm.
the Flipkart did not test me in any of the algorithms. Okay, what
Oh.
the Flipkart logic was in terms of two things, and I think as I sitting today, as I see, these are the key skills that people should look at. It did test me on problem solving, and what I mean by when I say problem solving, what we mean by problem solving is, let's say there is a business problem, say that we are not able to get the kind of sale that we are having. Now what are the hypotheses are you effectively generate able to think about the hypothesis why the sale is falling, right? Now this hypothesis the formation of hypothesis is a reflection of your thinking ability, your domain understanding. Once you are able to understand or formulate the hypothesis, the second thing that it asked me, now that you know these hypotheses, tell me what kind of data you require in order to validate these hypotheses. Which hypothesis will you require? What kind of data? Which data will help you to validate this hypothesis? Then once you know about those data, it asked me, or the interview process asks me to think deep. Can you tell me what metric will basically tell us, now that you have data and hypothesis, can you also tell me what metrics should we track in order to ensure that we are moving ahead or improving this on this line or degrading? What should be that? And once you have done all of these things, now this is the problem solving round. The next round was an analytical solutioning. Now in analytical solutioning, it takes a step forward and says, now that you have developed all of these three things, all, can you now tell me, if you have to develop, use any of your statistical and mathematical background to predict for future, how would you go about that, right? So in the way we see in analytics industry or in a good product company, the data science or ML problem is, this is the flow that you start with a business, a problem understanding starts with hypothesis, then what data is needed, then what metrics should we move, then you look forward in terms of saying that, okay, now if I have to decide a target for this metric, or if I have to draw a trajectory how in future these metrics will go, or how the you know, decomposition of these metrics in terms of, let's say if I have to say this metric is going down by 5%, what could be the RCAs, or what could be the waterfall of that particular metric? Can I use a statistical method to do that? Then only the statistics or mathematics or the machine learning comes into picture. Yeah. So that is essentially what we that the interview process consisted of, and I Fortunately, yeah, I did probably well, and I ended up, and yeah, I mean, since the time I joined in Flipkart, I think it's touch wood. I mean, it's going well. Have been able to make significant impact in business, and was able to grow every 6 months the team as well. Yeah, so that's pretty much. And even
Okay.
though I'm still now that I have a more experience, I kind of start keep doing taking the classes that I used to take, the freelancing classes. And yeah, I mean, the students, everybody who have been part of my classes, they said that they have greatly benefited, and that gives a lot of satisfaction, to be very honest. Yeah, so that's
Yes.
pretty much how my journey had been. Yeah, I don't know if that
Yes.
I mean, I just probably I think the two key takeaways I want to take everyone who is listening to this. One is that if you really uh, have an aspiration, right? Don't kill those aspirations, right? I mean, if you are in a job, if you feel that you deserve more, you have to strive harder for that. That's one point I want everyone to take. The second pointer is that there is no uh, there is no alternative to learn more or study more, right? If you feel that okay, I have an aspirations, and suddenly the opportunities will be on my plate just by luck, that doesn't happen. That may happen for very few lucky few, but you have to really put in the background effort to ensure that the opportunities, you are able to exploit those opportunities. Yeah, so that's pretty much, I think.
Amazing, amazing. We are also glad you mentioned all of these so honestly, especially the part where you said that at some stages of point you don't want straightforward answers, but diplomatic answers. But here we are very glad you did not give diplomatic answers, but
Yeah,
straightforward and honest answers.
yeah.
Well, moving on, as you might have noticed, ML is the buzzword nowadays, and many students are blindly taking online courses just to add another feather in their hat. So,
Hmm.
in your way, what should be the ideal way to go about data science? What should be the ideal roadmap for that?
Yeah, I think, I mean, if you want me to talk about someone, I'll just customize this answer for someone who is starting their career new, right? Fresh, because
Exactly. That would be very
someone,
helpful.
yeah, because at different point in time, the focus would be different. Right? I think the biggest mistake that people in the uh, emerging in this emerging field they do is they think that algorithm. I learned algorithm sklearn dot fit algorithm dot predict, and I'm an expert in ML. Right? That is not the case, unfortunately. I think the two components which are critical component is missing, and when I talk about this in classes, I see that a lot of faculty or the lot of perception is that machine learning is a black box, right? Now people who actually try to demystify those black box are the ones who end up succeeding at your because see, whatever these dot feed dot predict today, there is auto ML. Everything will get automated, right? Until and unless you have a strong and solid background of mathematics and in terms of understanding the inner workings of algorithms, you really will not be able to add value in the field in the coming years if you are in data science field. So I know it's a hard job going through the papers, the research papers, understanding the notations, understanding what are the interpretations of the way this is working. I think that is where people should invest time. So for an example, if you are trying to understand SVM, go through the paper who basically come up with the algorithm, right? And really understand what is happening inside this. How did he actually figure that out? Because if you know that, then you really will be able to tune your algorithm custom. The typical custom tuning of algorithms is something that you will be needed. The second phase, somebody who is starting new, you are still out of college, very much in touch with mathematics, calculus, metrics, determinant, algebra, linear algebra.
Yes, yes.
It is the right stage to shape your mathematical background. Okay. Followed by that, yes, if you guys are still in the era of C, maybe C is still important. It's a starting C, C plus, but Python, everybody is starting to know, right? So the Python obviously is a important component in your journey. The third thing is the scale of an algorithm. What that means is that now that there is a huge requirement that is coming in, is that because the businesses are increasingly understanding that there are a lot of people to actually, or there are a lot of tools to actually create the models or develop the models. There are a lot of people as well, but the businesses are not able to get the ROIs from analytics, right, or machine learning. The reason for the same being, a lot of these models are very ad hoc models, and the deployment gap, the model deployment hasn't been very successful. A lot of organizations hasn't been able to crack that. So a lot of
Mhm.
effort in terms of, so data science is an interdependent field, right? It's a mathematics plus programming plus also the IT component of it, which is
Absolutely.
basically how do I put the model on cloud? How do I do
Mhm.
how do I do a DevOps integrations, probably container, do a Docker container around these models? How do I connect them into microservices? How do I put that onto Spark systems? So all these components are going to be also a very critical path in the your journey. So whatever you are doing right now, there are four things in this order I want you to do. The first one is understand. Obviously, you have to be good at Python. So that's the number one. Number two is mathematics. Whatever algorithms you are running, now understand the mathematics part. It. Number three is once you understand these two things, get introduced to how do you actually productionize these ML models. And then the number four that I would say is, now that you have understood all these basics, number four is about understanding, starting to understand the how do you explain this model to someone who hasn't been exposed to the complex data science algorithms. And that is a skill that we say as a storytelling in the ML world. That is the
Okay.
most valuable skill sets. So what is that storytelling basically means? You abstract your complex ML algorithms and you talk in an understanding or talk in a language that someone in a marketing head or a supply chain head or an operation head is able to interpret and relate what is happening in with the actual his common sense, right? So this is a
Okay.
biggest skill set. I don't know at a someone who is basically starting the career. Storytelling is a it's more of an earned skill over the years. But if you keep your ears open, if you read
Mhm.
enough on what business problems, how people are depicting those business problems, if you have a keen eye in terms of eyes and ears in terms of understanding and how people are doing it around you, and not just stay content with that ML, you will be able to develop this skill. This is the highest paid skill. Okay. I mean, out of all the skills I said, if someone is able
Mhm.
to do this storytelling, that's when exactly the value of ML will be. You will be able to become a very good, a leader. Analytics leader is how I say when you are able to do that. So these are the four skill sets in this order,
Mhm.
right? There is one thing, few things now. If this is the skill sets that I'm talking about, obviously there is a roadmap that we should talk about as well. I think a lot of people at your stage to get better at applications should also take part in the different hackathons or competitions that are happening. Benchmark your performances, analyze. It's a must to analyze the different Kaggle winning competitions, right? There is a lot to learn. How do they actually modularize the code, right? What are the different changes or what are the different what should I say hack that they do in the traditional algorithm to get things done. So analyzing the Kaggle winner solutions, right? It is publicly available in a lot of cases. analyzing somebody your friend's GitHub profiles, right? The same code how differently can be written. This is also why it is required, because the all the institutes that they all the courses that are there, the courses are typically in terms of, as I said, they consider the data science or the learning the Python as a sequential language, right? Sequential programming language. But the power of data science, what we say is that reproducibility, like any language, right? If you are trying to write just in traditional programming language, if you are writing a log class, you will keep the class separate and you will use that, call that particular class object every time in every code. Very similarly, if you are doing a common pre-processing steps, it makes sense to create a separate class, put that in a separate file, and then use it across your all use cases. Okay, so with us, that will improve your turnaround time. The more you appear for hackathons and applications, you will actually realize, because the time given for hackathons are limited, right? And you will have to improve the performances as well. So if you are not able to really modularize your code well, or reuse the components of your code, you will not be able to focus on. So that's why all these things, key things, comes into picture in terms of a good coding and a good production purpose. So I encourage everybody to do that and keep on reading two sites very clearly. Two sites, what I say is, towards data science. Anything that comes into confusion, do side it. I mean, keep the board, give the topic name towards data science. Find that. Some articles in Analytics Vidya is also good. Don't focus on, apart from towards data science, Medium and Analytics Vidya. Don't no need to read any other site. There is also another site which is also good in certain cases. At times it is superficial, at times it is good. The Machine Learning Mastery, that site that typically comes in.
Yes.
And in terms of understanding the algorithms, so if I ask you, or if I ask anybody that how exactly the gradient boosting algorithm works or an XGBoost works, uh, very few able to answer because they haven't read the paper. So if you are looking for an easier answer, you can actually look for YouTube videos from Josh Stammer. So he explains different inner workings or different algorithms very well. I think that's also helpful in terms of knowing and understanding the black box. Yeah, I think if you read your use cases, if you read your algorithms, if you keep participating, you will get better at it. And that's what, at this point in time, I don't want. I think this is the right path to be taken going forward. And in your and if any of you are asking that, should we go for an upgrade? Should we go for an upgrade module? Should we go for a course from an XYZ institute? My suggestion to them is, it's a very passive mode of learning, right? Specifically, upgrade is good, but a lot of other institutes that you will see may not be that good, but upgrade costs high. So I will say, there is enough material in Coursera, or there is enough material online. If you search well, you will find out, and Udacity materials and everything materials are available publicly. Yeah. So if you are wanting, you will be able to find out the publicly available material. And if you are really driven, you can save money and still can, make your career path. So it's not mandatory, but if you prefer that, someone, there is some mentor or some hand holding, if you are kind of a passive kind of a person who wants to work through one assignment to another assignment to another assignment, that keeps on motivating them, then probably any of these courses will keep you on track, right? So that's pretty much to answer the other part of the question.
Yes. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for answering that so clearly without using so much of jargons.
Yeah.
Moving on, we have noticed that you were 40th in the state in HS. You were a
Mhm.
non-pointer in the college, and you were a gold medalist in XLRI.
Yeah.
So, needless to say, you were very good in your academics.
Mhm.
Absolutely proud of that. We all are. So, what do you believe? that anyone who wants to excel in this field, a strong academic is a must have?
See, I think strong academic. What exactly these strong academics communicate to the recruiters? It communicates to any recruiters a good work ethic and the fact that he is not a dumb, right? So it helps you in doing that initial set of screening. If you see why in most of the jobs, IITs, NITs, or the guys, the CVs get shortlisted with the belief that this guy, given that he has cleared IIT and has sustained in IIT, there is a strong work ethic this guy is able to do. And most of the job that we do in business, if there is strong work ethic, if he is disciplined, it is doable. I mean, it's not that we are sending a rocket to NASA, so it doesn't require a very difficult. It's more about putting that effort in. Yeah. So if you ask me, a strong acad is just a reflection of your work ethic or discipline that you have put through. It's just like in cricket, right? If you have performed well in domestic, you will get a chance into play for an international match. But whether how you actually able to do there, it actually matters there, right? Your career will be getting. So ACADS is going to help you in taking that, doing the shortlisting easy. At times will give you some head start. But if you ask me, is it mandatory? No, at all not. Because as you know, a lot of people I have seen through my career, right? A lot of people have a subset of subjects or subset of topics as an interest area. They just don't find interest in all the subjects, or they just don't want to send any run behind the numbers. They just have an area of interest and they get into depth of that. So we had friends who got into depth of, let's say, circuits, right? Who got into depth of how can I be a great coder, who get into a mechanical, somebody got tapped into an automata. So the important point here is that even if your total academics is not well, if you are able to, at least you should be able to understand ki wherever I have given effort, I have gone in depth, I have done well. Yeah. And I actually have the tenacity to give effort in at least something. Okay. This is what is required. This is absolutely required to be successful in any fields of life, that you be very clear on honest to yourself that I can give effort, and if I give effort, I will probably be doing well. Yeah. So if you have that belief, and I'm sure that actually comes through in your interview or selection process. Okay. And the people who take your interviews will be able to understand your depth in whatever field you claim to be. And then obviously once you are in, you will become successful. So we have a lot of story internally in every organizations who hasn't have the only a limited few have a good academics, but a lot many are successful in their own ways. And they're successful because they have exhibited these skill sets that I just said, right? So some of the things in this field will be required is to catch up on the skills probably that you have not studied or you have not done, right? Understanding things a lot quickly, relating ability to relate things better. So all of these logical understanding of the mind is required, as a result of which if you are good in maths and stats, it will definitely be help. Okay, definitely there is no doubt somebody from a non technical background or a non math background will be uh, very successful in this particular field. It's unlikely, it can happen, but it is unlikely because of the logical frame of mind that this particular field requires. Coming to other part of the story, so net what I'm trying to say is that strong acads rather than strong acads, your belief that I can give effort, and if I give effort I can get really deep into it is important. I would rather say that at times the strong acads while will help you in your career, it's also not something that has a flip side, that you might lose out on little joys of life, right? Typically your social relations will become a little weaker, you will have a lesser number of friend circles, you will have to be a lot of time, people would definitely maintain distance from you, right? A lot of these things, whether that's a path that you really want to take or not, that's something that it is you to decide. But I'm just saying that this is something over the years I have observed, and I have felt that you will have these your problems. So if you ask me, find your area of interest, get really in depth, and try to kind of be exhibit to yourself, not to anybody. I'm quite sure in life you will be successful in this particular field with that belief in yourself. Yeah.
Okay. Moving on, given the position that you are, you might have gotten many referral requests for referring to a particular
Yeah.
position.
Yeah.
So, whenever you get a referral request, what do you look for in an individual before referring them to a particular role?
So I firstly look at the first thing that I look at. So I'll answer this question in two parts. One is glad that you asked this question. Uh, in recently, I had open positions. I sent LinkedIn. I posted on LinkedIn, and I got almost 120 CVs. And I kind of shortlisted only 16, 17 out of them. Right. The reason why I'm giving these stats is to communicate the point that when I do a referral, when I don't know a person in personally,
Mhm.
the only thing that I have uh, talking about that person, or the only inference that I can draw, is from his or her resume, right? Now, in this particular field, I give an significantly high weightage on resume in terms of, is the resume showing that person is structured? Is the resume showing that this person can properly, at least making an attempt to make a story, and has the person given enough effort to really showcase that he is interested in this field? I'll break down all of these things. So in terms of whether that person has shown enough interest in this profile, how do I understand? What are the skill sets he is claiming to be? Does he have a GitHub profile? Does he how enriched is that GitHub profile, right? Has he really gone deep into writing some white papers, some publications? Has he tried doing that? Is there anything? I'm just saying in general. I also get a lot of MTech CVs as well. So I just a kind of understanding that, has he been doing some sort of a project internally? Has he put those code in public for others' recommendation, consumptions? How much effort, how enriched that GitHub profile is? That is a good reflection of that he is interested in the field. The second thing is the storytelling part. Now, the storytelling part is also very interesting. Why? A lot of people make a mistake of doing a project saying that I have done a prediction on Titanic data set on who are death by, the Kaggle Titanic data set, if you really know. So that particular problem set says who survived and who died, right? Well, it's a toy data set. It's not really a data set that tells you are serious about how companies run business. Okay. So have you put that, do you realize the fact that this data sets, whatever you may have done, writing in your CV that you have done anything on Titanic dataset, there are 10,000 people who have made their submissions in Kaggle on Titanic dataset, and it has zero correlation with whatever real world use case that we'll do. Has it been very very helpful for someone to write? Correct. So is the guy put in enough understanding or enough effort to understand that Flipkart as a company, what kind of a problem they might be facing being an e-commerce company? Has he gone there to really find out what are the e-commerce data set? Maybe a simple e-commerce has he gone there to find out e-commerce sentiment analysis, or has he gone to find out e-commerce sales drop, right? So all these, the different, or retail, right, something around retail or e-commerce, has he been able to find out data sets and quickly show me that yes, he has some understanding as a fresher that what could be the problem areas. Okay, so this is the second part as well. Now when I was talking about storytelling, it is also about structuring in CV in four parts. What is this? Every project that you are doing, you should start with saying that what is the business problem, one liner, what is the business problem. The second is what is the data challenges, or what is the data nuances. Then the third is approach, what modeling algorithm or what statistical approach that you have used to solve that. And the fourth is the impact that it has caused, right? So these four impact means, has that been a GMV impact, has that been a NPS impact, or the customer satisfaction impact, has there been a sale impact, has there been a unit impact. It need not to be a for a people like you guys who are doing a college projects, it need not, it is not going to be a realized impact, but it can be also a forecasted impact, right? The solution that we proposed is effectively going to cause this much of, this is the use case, if we use this will help you to help business to save x dollars, right? Have you done that estimations for me to really understand, acha, from the beginning this guy is actually doing, thinking around making some changes to the organizations, or using ML to make some changes to the organization. So even if you are giving a project, how well you structure your each of the projects, rather than writing a laundry list of things. I have used ICCVs, used random forest, used did missing value imputation, then after that predicted what is the, how many people have died on Titanic, right? And then he will say that okay, this is what my entire project experience, right? For a typical fresher experience, this is not going to help. This is not really how I'm looking for your CV. So a good so net your interest, the effort, your interest in the field, your interest in the domain or the company, your ability to communicate and structure your CV. Typically, how do you structure? What do you want me to look at the first thing? Okay, do I want to look at what is your father's name, what is the DGPA or CGPA that you have got? No, really, I mean, I'm hiring for someone is a fresher role. I'm the first thing I probably want to know, what is the, I will give probably 5 seconds to look your CV. The first thing that I should see in your CV is that what have you done? Can one project that can draw my attention and then can say this is the guy that I need? And does he know SQL? Okay. Does he knows Python? Does he know the basic ML? Okay, let's hire him, right? So this is what I typically look at. So my referral process is highly biased by the resume that person shares with me. And then in the if I get to meet that person in I mean, that is typically, that had been the case, but if I start taking interviews, obviously then I will try to say whatever he has given me an impression with the resumes, uh, is the person really actually able to justify those.
Yes,
Matlab,
yes.
I will then get into, because I have enough background of what he did in his project. I will now try to deep dive. Acha, what kind of, why did you do this? I will try to deep dive on, does he blindly did copied from a article, or really he has gone deep on why did he do this? What will be the problem if I don't do the missing values? What will be the, why did I use random forest, and why did not, why do you think on this data set this particular algorithm worked better? Did he really gone deep in terms of understanding the whys? That is typically my question. And then I will give in terms of, once I understand that yes, he has gone deep, I will now give a new business case to think, acha, he has been able to give a thought on a problem statement which he has thought deep. Matlab, he has worked 2 months, 1 month on that problem statement. Let me give him a problem statement now and start see how on the fit he is able to approach, or on the fit immediately how he is able to think about that. So that's when I give a problem statement. Let's say this is something a problem statement, and I'm 100% sure he will be wrong, right? But what I'm looking for is that, is he able to think in right direction? Is he able to tell at least 10-20% of the reasons that probably, or the, is he able to think, is had on a problem statement immediately when it comes to him? I think that's another skill set that I'm looking at. So net resume, how deep he has gone in his project that he has done, and given a new project, how he is able to think something which is coming new on his plate, is the three things that I typically look at when I refer or interview someone. Yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot for that. You have already mentioned about teaching in your previous answers. We would like to take that forward. We've noticed that you're already a coach and mentor at Edureka and Upgrad. So, what would your advice be to someone who wants to pursue this field, the teaching field, this domain?
Yeah, I mean, I have been part of several institutes actually. See, if you are just going for a teaching career, huh,
Mhm.
uh, there is a flip side. The flip side is it becomes a lot theoretical, yeah, and it becomes a lot less business oriented, right? The way in theory it is done versus the way. So there are multiple skill sets I was talking about. You will, over the period of time, you will develop a good mathematical background. You will always be working on state of art things, right? So let's say, you, because you are teaching, right, you will probably, you will do doctorate, you will do masters, and you will be in a niche field working on very, or at least aware of what is happening in industry, the state of art thing. Okay.
Mhm.
But what we will realize is the practical, if someone professors or someone who is in a teaching field often has to also liars, or also work very closely with industry. You will see that there is always an industry connect that gets set up. The reason for the same being, how things are done in industry, that's also a very important component. So I would say both have a professional, and as an industry, a professional in this field, and someone who is in a teaching field, both need each other. Okay. So both has their positives and my negatives. Both need each other to sustain. So someone who is a professional, he does not have the theoretical background, he does not know about state of the art. So as part of Flipkart, we connect with IIT Kharagpur professors, we connect with IIT Kanpur professors to really know how we can solve something, a problem, and we, because we don't have that background. On the other side, the professors also, or the institutes also feel good that yes, the knowledge that they have is able to make, they are able to contribute to the industry as well. So what I'm the idea, someone who wants to get into this field of teaching, I want to say that uh, it is going to be a very tough ride. Okay, probably a tougher ride than a professional life would be, uh, because there are sacrifices in terms of uh, obviously monetary side sacrifices are there. There is also sacrifices in terms of feeling that you are getting too niche, right? A field which is so vast, a field like ML which is so vast, it may be very niche if you are trying to get into a teaching career. And after a years, you will see that this teaching curriculum is a very slowly changing curriculum. So, and if you start teaching the same thing again and again and again, you will realize that you start losing interest, because there is no new things to also teach, right? And if you were a good teacher, which a lot of KGC profs and whatever, a lot of XLRI profs that I have seen, they kind of start innovating at this point in time. For an example, they start taking a class, they start teaching topics which are not in syllabus, they start different methodologies of teaching. So if that you are able to, if you stay, keep yourself innovated always, as a somebody who is a teacher, then you will be able to still be relevant. Otherwise, while I have a completely different view, I feel that it's a very noble profession, and all those are typically said about professors and teachers. I completely agree to that. I said that there are a lot of sacrifices to be made actually, but what I'm saying is that it's a rigorous journey. At the end, it is not guaranteed that you will be completely satisfied with everything, and that's true with a professional field as well. But the probability that your knowledge you will be able to apply in solving business problems is a little less. And given that you may not, the ML or machine learning field is something which is, you want it to really make some changes and see that businesses are changing, right? That gives you that kick. At least for me, it is that kick that I develop an algorithm, my business leader makes a decision, I immediately prove right and wrong. That kind of thinking, or that kind of an outcome which you can see as a professional, may not be always in a teaching career. I am saying this completely on a very myopic understanding of the field. I may not be completely right, so I stand corrected. Everybody, I'm sure a lot of people may have a different opinion. Coming to someone who is in a professional field already, if you want to use teaching as an opportunity to share, it's a fantastic thing. I want everybody, even now, I feel that I should go for PhD, something which I can do as an not a regular PhD, but maybe a PhD with executive PhD. I also feel that yes, I should keep teaching or interacting more and more students, because what it feels is that the students are able to get a theoretical understanding from professors. And if we, someone who are in industries day in and day out, see, if we are able to tell them what is happening in practical, the students are, the next generation is rightly poised with the mix of both sides. And that's when we prepare a generation for the new technology that is coming in. So anybody who has come into this field or planning to come into this field, I encourage them to share their knowledge. It will have a personal cost in terms of, you will have to move. I mean, couple of weekends you will may not be able to do party. You may maybe your girlfriend will leave, but at the same time, it is something which actually a lot of people, you get a lot of goodwill, right? I mean, a lot of people will thank
Yes,
you for the kind of insights that you are sharing. So yeah, it depends on what your mindset and what you are prepared with.
exactly. Well, we are really delighted to have these kind of comprehensive answers, and you have almost covered all the correlated aspects in all of your answers. We
Okay.
won't take much time. We would like to conclude with this one final question of ours. What, apart from whatever you have said already, what is the one piece of advice that you would give to the current KGCNs, people who are already in college?
I think current Kajicians, I think one thing that is, it's a very good difficult question. Let me think about it. So I think there could be two things. It's a general advice in life, right?
Okay.
I think the way I tell them is, you have made all the hard work to come to KGC, right? But uh, it's imperative that you carry on that hard work. I think why I say is, the moment I have seen a lot of my talented friends got into TCS, got into CTS, Wipro, went to on-site, and that's pretty much the end of their career. I'm not saying that that is done, but I'm saying that while the money part is there, while the maybe they are working harder, but
Mhm.
are they learning enough? Is the job intellectually stimulating? So if a job which is not intellectually stimulating, if a work which is not intellectually stimulating, make that put that extra effort to ensure you move towards a role or a job or a field that keeps you intellectually stimulated. The way why I say so is this entire engineering field, right? Or the class 11, 12 that you have studied, the entire engineering field, these are very challenging. You developed your brain, you polished your brain, you understood what the different interworkings are, complex concepts. It's very possible that if you get into job life, all of these will vanish, and you get into a mundane business as usual kind of a work. Uh, you have to remember and go back to this piece of advice, saying that Utsav had said one day that whenever that situation comes in, and that has come in my life, yeah. So 3, 4, 5 years of my life, I probably got stuck into a bad job, which was, you know, which was mundane. I did not know writing 3 lines codes, 4 lines codes, maintenance, whatever those be, right? The maintenance, production support, etc. Shitty things. But whenever you realize that I have, or anybody who gives extra effort to change their situation to something which keeps their brain on, is the one who will at the end of their career feel more content and more happy, more satisfied. Yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to say. I mean, don't lose hope anytime you are stuck in a operational job. Just put that extra effort to change the status quo. Yeah, that's all. I think not much enough said.
We sincerely hope that whatever advices you gave come to be the turning point of many individuals.
I hope so as well. I just hope that I made some sense. Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. And in fact, all the answers that you gave, they spoke volumes of your wisdom as well as your experience.
Thank
With
you, Abhishek. Yeah.
with this, we would like to have your permission to conclude this call. And we thank you from the bottom of our heart. And we have nothing else but wishes for you. And we hope that you do even better in your life and achieve greater success.
Thank you, Abhishek. Thank you, KGC. I have also have the all the great, all the best wishes for all the KGCs across all departments, across all years. Uh,
Mhm.
Hope someday, I mean, once the COVID ends, I can go back to relive those or relive
Amazing.
those older memories, right?
Mhm.
Those, you know,
We are all looking
the
forward to that.
chai, the professors, the chai addas, and the buildings. I
Yes.
recently saw a video that was probably some news channel days, and I immediately went back,
Yes.
and I think after that only this came. So it was the KGC was back of my mind there. So all the best to everybody, guys. Anytime if you need any suggestions, feel free to drop me a message in LinkedIn. Yeah, I'm
Yes.
available. Thank you, guys. Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
thank you.
Thanks a lot, Utsav.